but it's something that was in there all my life, and I don't know what the heck brought it out. I spent 17 years in the military. I used to carry a gun and never had these thoughts. So, how would all this be relevant for Kono? Kono, you got your Kono members, you got your executive board, and you're going to have agreements and you're going to have the disagreements. I think it's important for Kono to realize the group dynamics that are at work, and just because you all may know each other doesn't mean that the problems cannot fester. So be aware of when somebody's just trying to hone in maybe on one little point, or as you guys go out in the community and you talk to neighbors or you get people to join, realize they may have no experience working with local government, and they may have no desire to learn that, which is why they may come to Kono. But realize, because they may not have the experience with the processes and the frustrations of working with local government, that it can affect exactly how they think. What I think is probably most important Kono can do, I've given a few points, and I will certainly take some more questions over the past 4 years of what I've been doing. The word is experience, experience, experience. Kono is experience working with other neighborhoods. You guys can continue to be, and I know that you already do, but you can continue to be the education for new council members, to tell them the perspective of the neighborhood, not that you're some kind of a lobby just trying to get your way, but to try to explain to the electeds, here's some dynamics of neighborhoods, or maybe here's a dynamic for Ivywild. Here's a dynamic for Falcon Heights, and it's way different, but to educate the elected so that they can have something to process all this information that's coming toward them. I think another part of my frustration is so much information having to process on your own. You just get frustrated when you can't think. So Kono has the experience of the neighborhoods, experience working with the electeds, and I think it's critical that you folks work even harder to work to educate the electeds and really work to come across as not trying to convince them, but just to educate.
Great, thank you.
That's my spiel, if you will. If you got some questions, I'm ready to say them, and I got someone else that can probably give a second opinion. Miss Gateway there.
You've got the question over.
Who was not one of the 5.
So, Val, let's say that the campus has been wiped clean, and everybody walking in the building after getting sworn in on the 21st has a clear mind and no agenda of their own, and you got to sit down with everyone and give advice and know that they would receive it and actually act on it. How would you make that the most impactful? What would you say to them? What advice would you give them knowing that they would take you up on your advice?
I would say take time to at least discuss the roles and responsibilities for council, what you think you should be doing, what the code or what the charter says, and then talk among yourselves and agree on where we're going to go, what we'd like to do. When you don't have that, then I certainly have lived through that. When everybody thinks on their own which way I want to go, or they talk with 2 or 3 other people and say, let's go this way, and we just get a couple more agreements and we could go. That started out on the wrong foot. We attempted, as I recall, back in 2011, to do that. We had a council president with 8 years' experience in the local government. He was new to the council mayor form of government, but he wasn't new to government. And he knew people, and he had contacts, and he knew what the staff did to prepare and things like that. But for us to establish our rules, we needed some guidance from the attorney's office, and that was very difficult to get. No, it was impossible. So this new council, we have a very different philosophy of the city attorney. So sitting down first, before all 9 decide what they want to do, talk about the roles and responsibilities and what we can do with the staff we have.
And expectations, I hear.
The expectations of a council member? Or-
Yeah, I'm hearing you say that if you all sat down and borne out what you expected from the body, what you all were thinking, imagine what that would do as well. If one's thinking one thing and another's thinking another, but you never identify that, and you're going there and here and everywhere, it would be great to have that established in the beginning. Because maybe some people think it's completely fine for individual council members to go off on their own, doing their own thing. And somebody else says, no, that's not good, because if you work collectively, you actually get things done. What if that could be an outcome? Where the
That
individual.
would be
doesn't
almost
decide.
unbelievable. That would be certainly something to shoot for. You want to be mindful of having the group thing, though. Because I can testify, when you sense two people are going one way no matter what, in spite of time constraints, in spite of information, in spite of issues, in spite of facts, that can certainly backfire too. So it's gonna start from day one, what are we as council supposed to be doing? What do all 90 of you think? And then find a way to come to a consensus. And then if you have to change the charter, start a list of things to change the charter. But I would think that you got 5 weeks before the new mayor comes in, they could do that.
Sure.
And lay the groundwork to work with the new mayor and to get the buy-in from that. Yes?
Could you talk about code enforcement? And one example I have in mind is the house we've been reading about in the paper on Dublin and Brittany, where the fellow just tore out the yard and brought in junk cars and put up telephone poles instead of fence. And the houses surrounding that are all well-maintained and quite attractive and all. And I'm sure over these last couple of years, their neighbors must have tried to do something about that. And why didn't something happen? And what is the process that's supposed to take place if, for example, where I'm living, somebody's place is becoming really bad looking, and what recourse would I have, or what recourse did those people have, and why didn't it take place?
Well, that hasn't yet crossed my desk. Now, I've worked with people here on dilapidated housing home, so that's where this starts. But
Right, that just.
my view, the city has their priorities, the executive branch has their priorities, and what has the priorities gets funded. The council is not part of day-to-day operations, so I'm not sure what the executive branch was doing the past 4 years when it comes to that. I do know there were cuts in code enforcement. And when
I'm sorry, the cuts?
Yeah, there were cuts. And I think they had something like 5 or 6 now, but they used to have double that or something, but.
And we have
Yeah.
the least number of code enforcement officers per population of any city on the Front Range. Aurora has at least twice the number, well, actually 3 times the number of code enforcement officers that we have.
What's the recourse?
It changes people's minds on priorities. I'm sorry.
So, I have worked with the people that have written the laws for that. We have what are told to me pretty good laws to enforce on the damaged buildings, on the dilapidated buildings. They haven't had the manpower to enforce it for whatever reason, and this goes back years. So to answer your question, we're going to have a new council. We're going to have a new mayor. Funding people like, or positions like the code enforcement has got to be an issue, and I know Dave is going to make sure that that's an issue. But it's just, quite frankly, been kind of ignored over the past years, and it's funded other things. Now, something that was not ignored was a lot of the public safety aspects, a lot of the police, fire, the salaries, the equipment, things are important. The money was not being frittered away, but that's the importance of elections, that's the importance of getting to know the mayor and your council member, is because they frame what the priorities are. And if they don't know things like the code enforcement, or if it's not important to them, it's not going to be funded as much. So And you've probably already talked to Mary Lou and to John, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, all three of the leading
Yeah.
candidates were people I talked to about that.
So to answer your question, what I'm thinking happened is that there just weren't the resources to do it. There just wasn't the manpower. Now, I don't know, maybe the request got lost in the bureaucracy, I don't know.
So
Yeah.
how does an individual citizen give their input to whom and what way? So that, if I just wanted to say to my councilman and to the councilman at large, code enforcement needs to be taken care of in this city. I mean, throughout, you can drive around and see. How would I communicate that in a way that would be given some credence?
Number one, at about 12 noon on the 21st of this month, you're gonna have a new council, and you will probably have the emails switched over by then. I would send a allcouncil@springsgov.com, and I will write this down for you, but it's allcouncil@springsgov.com. Tell them you're a resident, tell them that you're see the need for added code enforcement, and you'd like it to be a priority for on the new council. That would be step one. What part of town do you live?
I'm sorry?
What part of town do you live?
I'm in District 2, so Larry Bagley's my new.
Yes, and Larry has an email already.
Actually, he gave me his card the other day.
Yeah.
I didn't keep him busy.
But Larry knows about that. Larry's taken a position that I serve with the Regional Building Commission, and they are the ones that do the orders to demolish a building. Or they are part of the process to track when a house is not being kept. So, and I told Larry about some stuff I've done with the Public Works Office when it comes to the code enforcement. So he is already aware. So if he gets an email from you, I would guess he's gonna say that's what Val was talking about. But that would be most important. I would send one off to the new mayor. Yep, start things right there.
Now, you stressed the importance of experience. And yet, in this community, we have a large segment of the community that is very much involved in trying to find methods of getting people out of office through term limitation. How do you square that? I tend to agree with you that experience is essential. And yet we have, this need to keep getting people out of office.
I'm not sure that I can help. Why I'm smiling, I remember back in, I think it was 95, 96, we voted, I think, as a town to have term limits. And I remember punching that on the card to get those bums out of there.
Yeah.
So I've come a long way. I realize now the value of experience. We could have a discussion a long time on the term limits, on the value of them. How do we reconcile that? And then we have a charter that's been written that every 4 years we could have 6 new council members for the 6 districts. Yeah.
Yeah, makes no sense. Pardon me.
A lot of people weren't consulted when that was written. Yeah, you're right, that doesn't, so boy, I don't know how to,
Do you think, Val, that it helps that if people would be on some of the boards and commissions first? Is that a good training ground?
boy, I totally spaced that, Stephanie. Yes, there's 52, I think, boards and commissions still that the city has. Those are council appointed to different things to give input to council. That is a great place to see how a city works. And how else could we get experience? I was just lucky enough over the years, I've been friends with Jan Martin, Richard Scorman, Ted Eastburn, and such, and I, kind of picked up, if not stuff to do from them, stuff not to do.
By the way, Jan was here yesterday, and she also expressed her commitment to experience, that is an essential part of the process. You know, and when we have experienced people in office, we shut them off. Makes little sense.
Well, I think some of this, if you don't mind my jumping in a little
This is
bit.
the group.
It's an attempt to make rules when thinking is required.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, okay, they're gonna kick everybody out of office after have been in for 8 years, we ought to be saying, we're gonna kick only those people who aren't doing a good job out of office
Yeah.
after 8 years. And I don't know what's so hard about that, honestly. I think it's something that we agree we ought to reconsider. I think it's a disadvantageous way to look at things. But I want to ask you another question, and it's a question that I've been thinking about a lot in the last couple of months, because I hear a certain member of council say this fairly frequently when a constituent comes to him and says, I need to talk to you about a situation with regard to development in my neighborhood. And the response is, and I know this is